I didn't expect the message to sting this much. Family gathering after the will reading. Everyone invited. Everyone except me. I read it twice, the words blurring for a second before I caught myself. I wasn't going to cry.
Not now.
Not when I'd built an entire life away from them. The city skyline stretched out beyond my penthouse window, glass towers bathed in golden light. My reflection stared back at me, perfectly composed. The beige silk blouse, the gold chain I bought after my first big deal, and that practiced smile I wore whenever I needed to look unbothered. But inside, there was that familiar ache. The one that whispered, "You were never the chosen one." I placed my phone face down on the marble counter, took a slow sip of coffee, and let the bitterness steady me. Dad's will. The one thing I had quietly dreaded and foolishly hoped for all at once. They could erase my name from that room, but not from his memory. And definitely not from what he left behind. A soft buzz broke the silence, another message. From my cousin. They're all at the house now. Stepmom's already talking about who gets the lake property. My lips curved into a small, knowing smile. Perfect, I whispered, slipping my keys into my purse. It's time they finally see what I've really been doing all these years. It still amazes me how betrayal doesn't always arrive like thunder. Sometimes, it comes in the quiet, in the sound of your father's favorite chair creaking while your stepmother's voice fills the room. I was 23 the day everything changed. Fresh out of college, carrying big dreams and even bigger faith in family. Dad's business was booming back then, a string of real estate developments across the state. I'd grown up trailing him through open houses, scribbling notes on the back of brochures while he talked about value per square foot. Real estate wasn't just his job. It was our language. But when Dad remarried, the tone changed. Elaine. She was beautiful, sharp, and knew how to make everyone feel just a little smaller when she smiled. My half-siblings adored her. I tried to. At first. I still remember the night she called me into Dad's office. The air smelled like his aftershave, crisp, comforting, but his eyes looked tired. "Liv," he said softly, "Elaine thinks you should focus on something more stable. Real estate's complicated. Maybe you'd be happier teaching or writing." I blinked. "Dad, you taught me everything about this business. I can help you expand." Elaine interrupted, her voice smooth as silk. "You're a sweet girl, Olivia. But your father's company is family. We just want what's best for you." The word family stung, because somehow I wasn't part of it anymore. Dad hesitated, looking between us. I saw it then, the moment he gave up trying to fight her quiet persuasion. That night, I packed my boxes in silence. My younger stepbrother watched from the hallway, guilt in his eyes, but no courage to speak. As I carried the last box to my car, my grandmother stopped me at the door. She'd always seen through Elaine's charm. She pressed a small velvet pouch into my hand. Inside was a brass key, old, cool to the touch. "This was your mother's," she said softly. "It opens more than just doors, Olivia. It opens chances. Keep it." I didn't understand what she meant then, but I tucked it into my jacket pocket and promised myself, one day, I'd make that key mean something. And I did. Because that was the night I stopped being the girl left out and started becoming the woman who builds her own inheritance. Starting over felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, terrified, but too proud to step back. I moved into a tiny apartment above a bakery in Charleston. The smell of fresh bread mixed with the damp air from the harbor every morning. My furniture barely filled the space, just a mattress on the floor, a folding desk, and a dream that refused to die. Real estate was still in my blood. I couldn't forget the sound of Dad's voice explaining market trends, or the way his eyes lit up when a deal closed. I wasn't ready to let that legacy be stolen. So, I found a small real estate agency downtown. I started as a receptionist, answering calls, filing paperwork, running errands for agents who barely remembered my name. But I watched. I learned. Every listing, every client, every negotiation. After hours, when the office went quiet, I stayed. Studied property values, read zoning laws, even practiced mock deals in front of the bathroom mirror. People thought I was naive. Maybe I was. but passion is louder than doubt. One evening, while restocking flyers, a woman named Margaret Ross, one of the agency's top brokers, caught me reading through a deal contract. She tilted her head, curious. "You understand that language?" she asked. I nodded nervously. Mostly. It's fascinating how value shifts based on nothing but timing and belief. She smiled. Most agents never figure that out. From that day, she took me under her wing. Margaret was fierce, mid-50s, brilliant, and unapologetically honest. She saw something in me that no one else had bothered to look for. She let me shadow her.
Coached me. Challenged me.
When I finally earned my license, she handed me my first solo project, a rundown cottage no one wanted to touch. "It's yours if you can sell it," she said. Everyone laughed. But I didn't. I spent weekends scraping paint, planting flowers, learning how to make something broken look like home again. 2 months later, it sold, above asking price. I cried all the way home that night, not because of the money, but because, for the first time, I proved to myself that I could. That sale became the first of many. Year after year, I climbed higher. One property led to another, a small duplex, a lakeside cabin, then an entire block of renovated homes. By the time I turned 30, I'd opened my own firm, Hayes & Company. Real estate investments. No one in my family knew. I posted modestly. A coffee cup here, a busy day at the office there, never enough to invite questions. Because I wanted to build quietly. To grow without their shadows darkening my light. Still, every time I signed a new deed, I'd trace my thumb over that old brass key from Grandma. The edges had worn smooth, but its meaning only deepened. It wasn't just a key anymore. It was proof that doors close, yes, but some of us learn how to build our own. The Hayes family home looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe it was the way the years had stripped the magic out of those walls, or maybe I had simply outgrown the version of myself that once sought approval inside them. The driveway was crowded. My stepmother's white Mercedes, my brother Ethan's truck, my sister Lila's hybrid. I parked across the street, adjusted my blazer, and checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. Not the timid girl they'd sent away. Not the outsider they pretended didn't exist. Just Olivia Hayes, composed, unshakable, ready. When I stepped through the front door, every conversation in the living room froze. Elaine's perfectly rehearsed smile faltered first. "Well, look who decided to show up." Her voice dripped with surprise, and something colder beneath it. Ethan shifted awkwardly, tugging at his collar. Lila whispered something under her breath. My cousin Mark, bless him, looked like he wanted popcorn. I gave a small nod. Didn't want to miss the family reunion. Though, I hear I wasn't exactly on the guest list. Elaine's lips tightened. "The will reading was private, Olivia. Your father's instructions were clear." I smiled, just slightly. Were they? I let the silence stretch, long enough for discomfort to settle. Then, I reached into my bag and placed a sleek black folder on the coffee table. "Since we're discussing instructions," I said softly, "it seems only fair that I share a few of mine." Elaine frowned. "Excuse me?" I slid a set of documents toward her, crisp, official, stamped.
"Deeds."
Her manicured hand trembled as she read the first page. This can't be right." "Oh, it's very right," I replied. "The lake property you've been arguing over? Dad transferred it to me years before he passed. Quietly. He said he wanted me to handle it when the time was right." Their eyes darted between one another. Ethan leaned forward. "You're saying you own it?" I met his gaze.
"No, Ethan."
"I'm saying I own all 3 lake properties. The cottages, the marina lot, and the main estate." The room fell silent. The ticking clock on the wall suddenly sounded like thunder. Elaine's face lost its color. He wouldn't have done that without telling me." I raised an eyebrow. "Maybe you didn't listen long enough." Mark let out a low whistle. Lila blinked rapidly, her voice small. "But you left. You didn't even want to be part of the business." I nodded. "You're right. I left because no one believed I could be. But Dad did. He signed those deeds after seeing my first major sale. Margaret Ross even called to tell him how proud he should be. I guess that's the part none of you ever bothered to ask about. For a long moment, no one spoke. Elaine's facade cracked, the smooth confidence melting into disbelief. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, eyes darting anywhere but mine. I took a slow breath, letting the power shift settle. I didn't come here for revenge, I said quietly. I came because Dad's legacy deserves more than greed and gossip. I stood, sliding the folder back into my purse. You all fought over pieces of what he built. I rebuilt what he dreamed. As I turned to leave, I felt every gaze fixed on me, a mix of guilt, awe, and the dawning realization that the daughter they dismissed had become the one holding everything together. At the doorway, I paused. They left me out of the will, I said softly, almost to myself. But Dad already left me something far greater, the faith to build my own. And with that, I walked out, heels clicking against marble, each step echoing the truth they could no longer ignore. I didn't hear from them for almost 2 weeks after that day. No calls, no messages, just silence. It was peaceful. But peace doesn't last long in a family that feeds on control. Elaine was the first to reach out. Her email came at midnight, polite, formal, the kind of tone she used when she wanted something. Olivia, I believe we've had some misunderstandings. Perhaps we could discuss the lake properties. The taxes are quite high, and we'd all benefit if you considered selling or dividing ownership. I read it twice, sipping my wine. Then I smiled. I didn't delete it. Instead, I replied, "Let's meet. My office. Friday at noon." Friday came with crisp autumn air and sharp sunlight spilling through the glass walls of Hayes and Company. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Modern art adorned the walls. My assistant offered them coffee in porcelain cups. Elaine forced a smile. "You've done well for yourself." "I have," I said simply, motioning them to sit. I placed a new folder on the table, not deeds this time, but proposals. "I've reviewed your concerns about the properties," I began, "and I'm willing to make a few adjustments, under certain conditions." Lila leaned forward nervously. "What kind of conditions?" I looked each of them in the eye, calm, steady, unflinching. "Ethan," I said first, "Dad always wanted you to finish your construction certification. You never did. If you want to share in managing the lake properties, you'll enroll, complete it, and prove you can build something yourself, not just inherit it." He shifted, embarrassed, but nodded slowly. "Lila," I continued, "you've always dreamed of opening your art studio, haven't you? I'll fund your first year's lease. But only if you sign a clause that keeps you financially independent from Elaine's trust. No more dependency." Her eyes widened, hope and fear mingling. "You'd really do that?" I smiled softly.
Yes.
"Because I want you to live your dream, not her version of it." Then I turned to Elaine. Her painted smile faltered before I even spoke. "As for you," I said gently, "the lake house will remain in my name. You can visit, holidays only, if you agree to stop using Dad's company assets for personal expenses. You'll sign over the remaining control of the family account to an independent trustee." Her eyes flashed with indignation. "You can dictate." "I can," I said quietly. And I just did. The room fell still. I leaned back, letting my voice soften. "This isn't revenge, Elaine. It's balance. For the first time in years, this family will have to stand on effort, not entitlement." No one spoke, but I saw something shift, the faintest flicker of respect, maybe even remorse. I gathered the papers, closing the folder gently. Dad built this family on hard work and integrity.
I won't let that die.
If you want to be part of it again, these are the terms. Elaine's hand trembled slightly as she reached for the pen. For once, she didn't argue. Winter came early that year. The lake froze over, still, silver, and heartbreakingly quiet. I drove up there alone one morning, the roads lined with frost and silence. The house, Dad's house, stood tall against the water, sunlight spilling across its windows. Inside, the air smelled faintly of cedar and old memories. I walked through the hallway, past framed photos, our family frozen in smiles that time eventually fractured. It wasn't sadness I felt anymore. It was something gentler. Something like peace. Ethan had sent me a photo last week, his first finished construction project. A real one. He looked proud, exhausted, finally earning something with his own hands. Lila had texted a picture too, her art studio, painted in soft lilac, sunlight filtering through the tall windows. She'd written, "For once, I feel like me." Even Elaine had changed, slowly, cautiously. She'd started volunteering at a community center, teaching real estate basics to single mothers. I never expected that. But maybe Dad would have smiled at the effort. I wandered into his old study, the one he used to fill with blueprints and coffee mugs. Dust floated in the morning light. That's when I saw it, my grandmother's handwriting on an envelope tucked inside one of Dad's books. It said, "For Olivia." Inside was a short note. "Your mother's key opened more than doors. It opened hearts that believed. Keep building, live. Your foundation is love, not inheritance." I pressed the brass key between my palms, its metal cool and familiar. After all these years, it still fit perfectly there like it had been waiting for this moment. I stood by the window, watching sunlight ripple across the frozen lake. The wind brushed my hair, soft and steady. For the first time, I realized I didn't just prove them wrong. I proved myself right. I didn't need a will to define my worth. I didn't need validation to claim my place. I had built everything I was standing in, with grit, grace, and a heart that refused to quit. I turned the key over one last time, smiling through quiet tears. "They thought they wrote me out of his story," I whispered, voice steady now. But I was always the one holding the pen. As I locked the door behind me and stepped out into the cold, I could almost hear Dad's voice again, proud, warm, and full of that gentle certainty he once gave me. "Good job, kiddo." And this time, I finally believed him.